Rossendale Valley, Lancashire, north of Manchester. Sophie Lancaster was not like the other kids. She was quite a complex little girl, strong-willed, liked to spend time on her own. She didn't have many friends at school. She was intelligent and didn't suffer fools. Then one summer, at age 12, everything changed. She'd gone to a friend's house for the holidays, refused to come home for 6 weeks. She came in the back way. She'd dyed her hair, looking quite cool. I thought, wow, she's becoming who she should be. All teenagers want to belong. They look for like-minded people. It gives them social identity. In the small town of Baycup, standing out from the crowd carried risks. We'd be outside a takeaway and lads would come over, flicking my headband. "What do you look like?" I told him to clear off. He punched me. Black eye, split cheek. Sophie and her friends found safe places to hang out, graveyards, away from trouble. We never did anything wrong. We just sat there and played music and chatted. Then Sophie found love. His name was Rob Maltby. It was like two souls had found each other. She just relaxed. She'd found somebody that loved her, and she loved. Sophie was 20, planning to study English at university, reading constantly. She walked into a lamppost once because she was reading, gave herself a black eye. That was just who she was. On August 10th, 2007, Sophie and Rob went to a friend's house for drinks. It was a warm Friday night. They had a few drinks, left after 11. They had a 2-mile walk home. They would never make it. Baycup, a former cotton mill town in the Rossendale Valley. Beautiful place, stunning buildings, but antisocial behavior was a big issue. As a local journalist, you'd see the same names cropping up time after time. 2 names appeared regularly, Ryan Herbert and Brendan Harris, both 15. Herbert was known as a local menace, a bully. He'd pick on younger kids. Harris lived with his mom and brother, taken to the pub from a young age. 4 months before the attack, both had kicked and stamped on a boy. It was only stopped because the lad's mom intervened. On their walk home, Sophie and Rob stopped at a 24-hour garage for cigarettes. Some young girls were fascinated by Sophie's look, the piercings, the Gothic appearance. They convinced Sophie and Rob to join them for a drink in Stubby Lee Park. The park was a good place to congregate. Away from public view, nobody disturbed you. Dozens of teenagers were already there, including Herbert, Harris, and their gang. They'd consumed an awful lot of alcohol. Herbert on alcohol was not a good mix. Sophie and Rob kept their distance. If you live in a monoculture where everyone looks the same, has the same interests, that culture can experience difference in ways that are more dramatic. They did not have the infrastructure to cope with diversity. Then a member of the group stepped forward and started to punch Rob. A gang of boys led by Ryan Herbert attacked Rob. He was beaten and kicked to the floor. If there's an audience to violence, it escalates very quickly. The norms of the group permit more violence than is necessary. The gang stopped, retreated, left Sophie trying to help Rob. Why didn't she run? Even to this day, I think about that. Why didn't she run? Because the gang came back. Sophie didn't see them sprinting towards her. One of them jumped into the air and drop-kicked her in the back. The beating she received from Herbert and Harris was unimaginable. They had othered them, seen them as less than human. That gives them permission to continue the attack. As the attack continued, one girl in the gang found the courage to call 999. You can hear the attack happening in the background of that call. She was risking her life. Those kids knew she was on the phone. By the time the ambulance arrived, the attackers had fled. The paramedics couldn't make out the gender of either victim. The level of swelling, the bleeding. Rob and Sophie were barely alive, rushed to hospital. The next morning, Sylvia went shopping. She didn't know yet. You open that front door and your whole life changes. There's a card on the floor. Please ring Burnley Police Station, urgent. You walk in and you think, how could somebody do that to a human being? Both sides of her face, massive, black and yellow and running with pus. They'd ripped a big chunk of her head out. The only marks on her body were up both arms and legs, where she tried to defend herself. But everything was on her face, everything on her head. Doctors said she'd be fine. Come back tomorrow. We'll take her off life support. I walked in as they were taking off the life support. She sat up, spewing, making movements. I remember thinking, that's not right. It's not right. Police made 5 arrests, Herbert and Harris among them, charged with GBH. They were released on bail. But Sophie was not improving. It must have been the 4th or 5th day they got us in. She's brain damaged. Her eyes were tracking side to side, and there's nothing there. Nothing at all. Detectives made an unusual decision. A pathologist examined Sophie while still alive. The level of force on both sides of the head could only be caused by simultaneous kicking. Think of it like a football, two people kicking at the same time. It was impossible for one person to cause those injuries. 13 days after the attack, Sylvia made the hardest decision of her life. We were asking them to turn the machines off. Please turn them off. She would have hated this. Sophie's friends came to say goodbye. I didn't speak to her until we were going. That was just to say goodbye. There's nothing else you can say. They turned the machines off. A joint decision. No point keeping them on. 20 minutes. That's all it took. She died in my arms. Sophie's death changed everything. Witnesses who had been silent started talking. When it became a murder, those old group loyalties weren't as firm as first imagined. Herbert's clothing had Sophie's blood on his shoes and jeans, consistent with kicking her. While on remand, Herbert called his mother. The call was recorded. His mother implored him to tell the truth. He replied, "I didn't kick her like everybody else, and I'm guilty." Harris denied everything until police placed a covert listening device in the transport van. They had a conversation about kicking her head like a football. On the first day of trial, Herbert pleaded guilty to murder. Harris was convicted thanks to the pathologist's evidence. Two people, simultaneous force. The judge called it feral thuggery. Herbert got life, minimum 16 years. Harris got life, minimum 18. The only motive was hate. Sophie Lancaster was murdered for being different. We find ways of describing our enemies that make them less than human. That othering gives us permission to kill them. I don't think you'll ever be happy with whatever sentence they get. Is it a life for a life? I think so. Sylvia didn't crumble. She started a charity, the Sophie Lancaster Foundation. The strapline: stamp out prejudice, hatred, and intolerance everywhere. In 2013, Greater Manchester Police became the first to monitor hate crimes against alternative subcultures. In 2014, Sylvia was awarded an OBE. Nobody is the same. Why are we afraid of difference? There's nothing scary about it. The only scary thing is you don't know and you don't understand. Get to know different people. There's a hell of a lot more in common than different. I have no intentions of stopping. I'll carry on until I drop dead. As long as people will listen, that's where I'll be. Sophie Lancaster was 20 years old. She loved books, music, and a boy named Rob. She was killed for looking different, and her mother made sure she changed the world.